now. I'm so excited to have you all here today. And for anyone who's watching us, we are all truly gathering for the first time here. We have our DocFilm Fellows, who is the curation team for the Essential Stories Film Festival. And then we have a lot of filmmakers who are finalists and nominees joining us today. And we're so excited to meet and greet them all. And so we're going to do that here for the next 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then we'll get started with some Q&As at 10:30 with smaller groups of individual filmmakers and the moderators. So I'll tell you a little bit about DocFilm, and then what I'd love to do is to hand it over to the curators one at a time, our fellows, to talk about their how they conceived and developed and how they were motivated to create this project this year. The Documentary Film Institute is a small kind of organization within our university, and it's housed in the College of Liberal and Creative Arts. And we produce nonfiction films and forums, and have a project called the Pluralities Project, which is a conference and a journal. And you can find that online. You guys might have used that to arrive here today, or some of your guests might be. And the Pluralities conference started, this is our fourth year. And every year before now, we've been in person and we've been on campus, and we had more than 1,000 people last year attending. And so we just obviously couldn't do that this year, as our university is completely online until May of 2021. So the fellows, these amazing fellows that I work with, as our university is being downsized and there's lots of grim news coming from all corners, these fellows came up with this idea, and I helped them execute it. And that was to gather these stories of the experiences people were going through and try to bring them together in a meaningful way and in a more sort of global lens than we had been seeing before. So we're so thrilled that you guys all came and found us, and we found you. And I would like to hand it over to the curators to each talk a little bit about themselves and their involvement here. And I'll just have Molly go first, and then she can hand it off to someone else. Thanks,
Okay,
Molly.
hi, I'm Molly Hirsch. I've been working with DocFilm since last February, so about a year and a half now. And this film festival we all came up with this summer. We've been working on it diligently for the past 3 months. I work for we have another thing that we do called the Poetry Center, and we work for them. So that's mostly my job, but I've been helping this summer with this film festival, and I'm really excited to talk with all of you and to get to know your backgrounds and why you made your films.
I guess I could go next. Hello, everybody. So it's great to meet you all again. My name is Daniel. I've been with the DocFilm Institute since June 2019, and I do the social media and website updating and some of our email campaigns for the DocFilm Institute. So of course, it's some of you may have already met me before, but it's great to once again finally meet again. So in terms of my involvement for this project, I feel that so many important events have occurred this year in 2020. And through this film festival, I believe that this provides us a great opportunity for people to share their stories and perspectives as a way to raise awareness of all the issues and all of the events that are happening this year in 2020. So I really can't wait to meet with all of you, and I really can't wait to hear more from each of you. So with that said, thank you so much for your submissions, and once again, congratulations to you all. With that said, I'm going to pass the mic on to Kimia.
Hello, thank you, Daniel. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Kimia. I'm a graduate assistant at the DocFilm Center. I'm also a graduate student in the College of Ethnic Studies, getting my master's. This project is mostly the vision and work of everyone else, like of the undergrad fellows in SUMIA. I kind of joined later the beginning of this year to really just help like carry out their vision and like the work that like they had already put in. But I'm really grateful to be a part of it. I think now more than ever, we're seeing how much people like need art in their lives, need art to kind of like substitute or really be able to handle like everything, like the circumstances that COVID has put everyone in. So I'm really grateful that you all use that, you all shared your art with us, and now we're able to share that with everyone else. So yeah, thank you for sharing your work and your creativity with us. I'm really excited to talk to you all and get to know you better. Yeah, and I think the last person is Eric, so yeah.
Hi guys, Eric. I've been working for DocFilm since probably February, similar to Molly. I'm a production intern and I help with editing and I also help with organization. I've really loved working on this project. You know, when it comes to being a DocFilm, documentary is about sharing real life perspective and real life stories. And during COVID-19, we all have a story to tell. And it's been a real honor to see all of your stories and present them in a new and a fresh way. So I'm really glad to be here, guys.
Thank you, all the curators. We really watched every single film that was submitted to this festival in more than once and had discussions. And there were more than 300, 400 submissions it was amazing. I mean, we did it over the summer. It was kind of an idea. We put it out there. So it just was a really incredible sort of journey to get to where we are today. And I really commend the fellows for having that spirit and that motivation during this time when that's a hard thing to muster up, and all of you for the work that you did on your films, because you really taught us so much more about what we were feeling and going through. And so we're going to talk about your film specifically in the Q&As. So I'd love to just do a round robin so that you can just introduce yourself and tell us where you are and anything else you might want to share or introduce at this time. So it's sort of a free intro, but we would love to hear where you're calling in from, and please do say the name of your film as well. And I don't have a particular order for this, but I can certainly get the ball rolling and folks can just jump in. Okay, and so I will choose Marcello to go first because I know him, and he was a former fellow, a graduate of San Francisco State Cinema Program, and I saw this film actually kind of come together a little bit. So I'm gonna make you go first in terms of your intro, and then we'll have folks jump in. If you don't, then I'll call you out.
Okay, cool. Can you guys hear me? That all good? Okay. Yeah, my name is Marcello, and the film I made was A Garden for George. And yeah, like Sumia said, I was a student at SF State, and so this film was kind of my thesis film in my graduating year. Currently, I'm living in Santa Cruz, California, where the film was shot, just in my family's home, and I'm super happy to be part of this. I was very surprised to see all these films coming in from, all different places. And, I figured this festival, because it was put on by SF State would be, it's somewhat local, but it's interesting to see all these different perspectives that, came together for this festival. So I'm super proud to be part of it. And thanks for having me.
Thank you, Marcello. I'll ask Brenda to go next.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Okay, great. So my name is Brenda. I'm from Brazil. I live here in Brazil. I actually live in São Paulo, but now at the moment I am in the northeast of Brazil, in Recife, a place with a paradise we could call with beautiful beaches and nice weather and everything, despite the pandemic, right? Nowhere is really that nice at the time. Well, but I would like to thank you for the opportunity of being here. It's great, a great space for us to share our thoughts, our problems, well, we'll discuss it later, but my short film, Ile, which means homeland in English, it's about racism in childhood. In my opinion, it's the worst type of racism, right? Because when we are grown up, we can deal with that, but children, they do not have the tools, the skills to deal with something so violent, so, I mean, it's something that kills, right? Racism. And this is what the short film is about. And Somia, is that how you say your name? Somia?
Somia, yeah, that's very good.
Somia.
But I accept interpretations, and you may get some of your names from me as well.
Okay. Well, Somia, I do have a 6-year-old as well, which is downstairs. I said, keep him there so that I have the meeting. So I know, I understand. We're in the same boat.
Thank you so much, Brenda. It's so wonderful to meet you and have you here from Brazil today. Let's go to Kyle. We have two Kyles here with us. Let's go to Kyle Baston.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Cool. My name is Kyle Baston. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, so in the Midwest. I made my film. My film is called If Not Now, Then When, which is a documentary on the Black Lives Matter movement that I shot on Super 8mm film. I'll get more into that later, of course. But I just thought it was important to capture what I was seeing happening all around me, especially in a very red state, where I feel like I could change a lot of perspectives. So yeah, I'm excited to talk to you all about your films.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're excited to hear more about your work with film.
Thank you.
As well. And let's go to Daniel Vidari. We can't hear you quite yet. Nope. So Daniel, keep working on that. We'll swing back to you. Yeah, absolutely. Here in just a second. Let's go to Ashna. Hi, Ashna.
Hi, everybody. Thank you again so much for having me be a part of this, for not just the panel discussion, but to also be a finalist. I feel so grateful to be among all of you. I'm a first-time filmmaker. I was the one that made Black Lives Matter, and it's a short narrative, kind of about a perspective of somebody who is of color, but not necessarily Black. And it's meant to be a reflection, and I guess we'll talk about it later, but it's kind of meant to be like a personal reflection.
Did you say where you were calling from today?
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not. I'm calling from Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Okay, thank you. And let's go to Pedro Alberto. Hi, Pedro.
Hello, can you hear me, guys? Yeah, my name is Pedro. I am originally from Venezuela, but I've been living in New York City from 2017 until now. So it's gonna be like 4 years next February. Yeah, New York City was hit really bad with COVID-19 at the beginning of the year. And all the things that I was seeing and I was like capturing with my phone. So I decided to put it together and to send like a message for my family and friends. And that's how this all started. I'm gonna pass this.
Thank you. In New York is a very interesting place to be, especially in the last 4 years. Thanks for sharing that. And let's go to Alberto Baez. Hi, Alberto.
Hi everyone, how are you? I'm happy to be here with you. I'm from Spain and I was filming stories over 20 years. I think I remember more or less, and I like to share stories that move our hearts. I think is the hours is a good opportunity to share all that people live in during the COVID.
Thank you so much, and thanks for joining us from Spain. It must be late at night there, later at night. Okay, great. Let's see here. We have Kyle Scobie, I think. We'd love to hear from you. Hi, Kyle.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and then this is Darla, and my film was the second time I got to know my dog, hence her participation in the Q&A as well. I'm currently actually getting a master's in documentary film down at Chapman University in Orange County, and I am in Orange, the city of, as well as being in Orange County, and really excited to be a part of this. I think it's awesome, and I want to appreciate the categories that you guys called out in the submission process. I think it was a really cool approach to COVID as a concept, and that's one thing that really drew me to submitting to this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. We all agonized over that quite a bit, didn't we? Thank you. When we'll talk a little more about that later too. Daniel, should we go to you?
Yes, and now can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm so sorry to be the one that had the technical issue during the Zoom meeting. I'm Daniel Vidaurri. People call me Dano. I'm from Mexico City. I love making documentaries. I've been mainly working with web documentaries for the past few years. And well, I'm really excited to be here. I'm really glad that there's space for not also exploring what's happening with the pandemic, but also new narratives around that. I think that was what I enjoyed the most about watching all the films. Is to see the richness and the experimentation of all the work that I saw. There were risks taken, and I like to see that.
Well, you know, that's a perfect way to kind of round up our introductions. And if I miss somebody, please let me know. But I think that was everybody. And that's something that came up in the jury selections, was the level of risks that were taken in the films in terms of how they were trying to debate and choose a winner, which is a horrible thing to do. And we view you all as like people we want to celebrate your work. So thank you for sharing that. And I think that's what's really great about this particular festival, because there's a lot of COVID festivals out there right now. But the way the fellows really figured out what they wanted to hear about and put the shows together, and the work that you guys were brave enough to share is really what makes it. And if you haven't seen all the films, the finalist films are on YouTube, and they're available for one more day. And then we'll be making, there's some films we selected for our website, and we'll be making those available through our website and some future programming through Pluralities as well. So make sure you take a moment to check out the program. And I also want to thank our jurors. One may be able to join us, I'm not sure, but they worked hard at looking at your projects, all the nominations that were made. And we had Miguel Moreno, who is a cinema undergraduate. He's one of our fellows as well. We had another young person, Noah Namgong, who is an MFA student at Columbia. University. And then we had an assistant professor of film, Anne Cisco, who teaches at Smith College right now. So it was a really great jury and representative of kind of the different ways we're looking at this, and not, you know, academically, from a youth perspective, and from those that are in the the thicket of filmmaking right now. So we have just a couple minutes before we should dive into our first Q&A. And so one of the things I noticed people talk about today was their unique experience with COVID. So maybe if not all of us, maybe a few of us could maybe share what's going on in our environment, since we've shared where we are right now. And I can start with, you know, I'm in Southern Marin, I'm in the Bay Area. My fellows used to all be near me, now they're not. And they'll tell you maybe where they are. Only I think Daniel remains nearby in the south, kind of the Southern Peninsula. And, you know, we're fairly, I think, lucky here. Our rates are relatively low. But that doesn't necessarily make you feel a lot better about what's going on. And I think that there is this sort of ongoing tension of like not being able to feel a relief from the election, not being able to feel a relief from quarantining and staying at home for as long as we have, that there's no reward for that. There's no, you know, real kind of outcome yet. And I think that is the hardest part of what I'm dealing with. Oh my gosh, I'm going to mute myself.
I guess if we're talking about the COVID environment, I guess I'll continue the conversation from my end. So I don't know if you hear trumpets in the background, but I actually reside in Daly City, so I'm in a similar boat with Somia. So for now, like for the most part, I've been like staying at home, been doing a lot of school from home. So yeah, fortunately, I'm not really able to go out as much, but you know, this has been a process of adapting to new environments for me.
Thank you, Daniel. And that was my smoke alarm needs a new battery. So welcome to my garage, as I said before. And I said there would be hiccups, and so there are. Thank you. Does anybody, this is part of the quarantine life, right? Anybody else want to share? I know there's somebody from Indianapolis I saw here. Brenda gave us a really lovely sense of what things are like in Brazil. And I think in California, we're lucky in that way that we have so much outdoor space to be able to enjoy, particularly now as the winter approaches and summer is approaching in the Southern Hemisphere. So that's a good thing. Does anybody else have a environmental, Kyle?
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Indianapolis. I'm actually from Greenwood, which is the city just south of it. It's very bad in terms of COVID, very, very bad. Basically, it's getting a lot colder now too. So it's like in the 40s, sometimes even colder, 30. And every time you go somewhere, you see at least one person that doesn't have a mask on and they refuse to put one on. And it's all those videos you see like on Twitter and everywhere, like they happen. And it's kind of terrifying, honestly, because the numbers are at a point here in Indiana where there are roughly 500,000 people, they estimate, that are asymptomatic and walking around. So it's like 1 in 30 people have it and don't even know. So, and the fact that you can't go outside now because it's so cold, it's like, it's getting rough to where you really have to just bunker down as much as you can. But meanwhile, like half the population here just are going about their lives. So you like feel like you're kind of crazy because you want to bunker down. It's just a very, very interesting experience. And it's the point where like, it's kind of breaking like families apart, even like to where if they want to go to Thanksgiving or not and all this stuff. And it's like, it's something else. I envy you guys a little bit in California, but we'll make it through. We'll make it through.
Thanks for sharing that. There is this shaming thing I think in going on, no matter where you are, in terms of like your level of comfort with how you're coping with COVID. And we've certainly experienced that in California, particularly because it is nicer here. There's a lot of very, brazen people who think it's okay, because they're outside and that kind of thing. So, and we have a low count right now, though it's going up. So it's a scary thing to hold to your own values and decide what's right and best for you. And then also to have to trust everybody else, right? And their choices too. Thanks for sharing that. We have time for one more, or we can shift to yeah, okay, great. Kyle, Scooby, go ahead. You're in...
I'm down in Orange County, so I'm around a lot of people who question if it exists or not. Kind of similar, it's been surreal to see the news and then to go outside, and it has changed, but in the beginning, I was the weirdo wearing the mask. It was definitely that way. Down in Huntington Beach, I think it still is. I don't go to Huntington Beach for various reasons, and that being one of them. But it's been very surreal to kind of see how it inevitably has changed down even in Orange County, where I do see pretty much everyone with masks in stores now. Outside is still really hit or miss, but it's been interesting to live in a red area and see them kind of grapple with the inevitability of the situation.
Thanks for sharing that. How about Spain? Can I ask how things are in Mexico City and Spain to Daniel and Alberto?
Yeah. Okay, so here in Mexico City, well, I feel like we're just past that moment where the curve was so low that we all start feeling like with a lot of confidence to go out and do things. And I watch my social media and see all my contacts going to beach and going to restaurants, and I just also feel like the crazy guy in the bunker. But we're also in that moment that where a second wave is coming here into Mexico, and it's been confusing. Like lately, I watch the news every day. So I watch the Carmen Aristegui's news show in the morning with my partner, and it's just like a new bomb every day, not just with COVID, but also politically what's going on right now in Mexico. I'm like, personally, I'm like in a little bit of a world-ending paranoia right now. And that's kind of the perspective that I can give right now.
Thank you, Daniel. We're with you, at least for the next couple hours. But I think you're not alone in feeling that way. And I guess that's really what was, what brought all of us together with this festival, was it gave us a way to just see into other people's worlds and in a vulnerable way that we don't usually kind of put together. Alberto, and then we'll get started with our Q&A.
Well, in Spain, the situation is too difficult, like the rest of the world. But I think that COVID is an opportunity for the filmmakers. Because we can work online and we can share more histories. And maybe when for the rest of the little business is a difficult situation. For ours is an opportunity. I think all the people are learning about how can sorry, but so it's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity, absolutely. And I think that's a wonderful thing to add. And now we have the opportunity to talk more in depth with you about your individual projects. So let's go ahead and move on to that portion. So I think, Daniel, you're our first moderator, and the filmmakers that are in this group, could you list those, Daniel? And then please leave your video and audio on, and the rest of us, we can just mute ourselves and close our video to listen. And then we'll come back on for the second session with Molly.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Daniel. So my panel is going to be called Adjustment, in which we talk about like the adaptability to this new environment. The three people who I'm going to have a discussion with are Alberto, Marcello, and Pedro. So how this discussion panel is going to work is that I'm going to ask a question, then I'm going to direct the question to each of you, just so we could get like a conversation started. So with that said, let me know when you all are ready, and then we could begin. Awesome, perfect. So may I just ask each of you to unmute yourselves, and then I'm going to ask the first question. So my first question of this discussion would be, with COVID, so with all the events happening resulting from COVID, in what ways have all of you adapted to our new society? And I guess I'll start with you, Alberto.
Excuse me, could you repeat me, please?
Yes, of course. The question that I was asking was, with COVID happening, in what ways have you adapted to the new society?
And all the supermarkets was taking care for all employees. They using masks, gloves, hats, and dress that cover and protect to the virus. People went crazy shopping all that more than they need, and it was a crazy situation for all the people that had to work and that had to go out of their house, while all the rest of the people had to stay at home.
Definitely, definitely. I remember, like, since you were talking about the topic with like the groceries, I remember like at the beginning, I think around springtime, like when COVID first happened, when people came to like the groceries, like I noticed that there were a lot of people who kept on like purchasing like excessive amount of like toilet paper and water bottles, to the point where it's like other people who needed those resources didn't really have access to them, because it's like people kept on like buying too much of those, to the point where other people didn't have access to them. Thank you so much for bringing that one up. I guess so for the next question, the same question. What about you, Marcello? With COVID happening, in what ways did you adapt to our new society?
Yeah, I think the thing for me is with COVID and just everything going on right now, there just seems to be a lot of like tension going on consistently, whether it's about, COVID and how everybody feels comfortable or not comfortable with masks or being close to each other, or, Black Lives Matter, institutional racism. It just seems like there's these things happening kind of consistently that are just pretty tense. And so I've always been somebody that's tried to be pretty respectful and, never really trying to write anybody off for their beliefs. But that's kind of been tested these days when, what's going on. The things I mentioned they're so serious, right? And it can be hard because, just it's hard navigating your life and, just trying to interact with different people when so many people are on such, drastically different pages. And so that's what I've had a really hard time with personally. And I don't know, how I've done adapting to it. It's just something that you have to deal with. But like, yeah, that's been really tricky. And I think being around other people is like one thing that brings a lot of joy in everybody's life. So, not being able to do that is, it causes a pretty big issue. And so, finding other ways to get joy in your life is tricky when you're missing such a big one. But I guess I've just been trying to, get out more and just enjoy myself, and if that makes any sense. But yeah, it's been a very tricky transition, I think, for me personally.
I definitely understand what you mean. I would say it is also it is definitely very tricky, right, in this case right now, because it's like you said, since there's like so much tension happening overall, since there's like so much tension happening, it's like we have like many different folks who are like arguing with each other over like what is right or what is wrong, and it's to the point where it's like, it seems like, I feel like with all the tension that's happening, I feel like it's setting us back even more in a sense. So I definitely agree with you on that. And it is definitely like, it's it's like kind of tricky to find like joy with like everything that's happening right now, especially at this time of COVID.
Definitely, yeah.
And then I guess for you, Pedro, what I wanted to ask you was, in what ways have you adapted to our new society based on the stuff that are happening with COVID?
Okay. Well, I have a visitor here. This is my cat. Sorry about this. She's usually playing with the dog, but the dog is out. That's why she's come with me right now. Yeah, New York City has been in a constant change of the rules, adapting to the COVID and how to navigate the situation. When COVID first happened, sorry, baby, come here. When COVID first happened, it was like a lockdown that a lot of people lost jobs in the restaurants business. I was working in a restaurant too, and many of these people were immigrants, and all these immigrants didn't have like resources. It was like everything was like happening in a sudden moment, and it was really hard. Hopefully I was able to find like different jobs, and I've been coping really good. Also, I was with my cell phone all the time, like making footage of what was going on. And the city is still adapting. We are just today, it was an announcement that they are closing the school again, the school buildings for the second wave of COVID. So we don't know yet. What we need, and what I wanted to do with the film was to give people a little bit of hope, and teaching them, or try to show my perspective of what's going on, because bad things are going to happen all the time. Now we're experiencing it again with a second wave. But how are you going to take that bad things? It's going to be the same? Are you going to be the same person? Are you going to do the same things you were doing the first time? So it's like a second opportunity. When you have this kind of events happening in your life, you have to see as an opportunity for a change for better. So that's my answer, guys.
I really like your perspective on that one. I definitely agree that, hope is definitely important at these times, because it will help us, like, as long as we have hope, it could help us like to understand what is happening in our environment. And if we maintain like hope, we could potentially be able to understand and maybe like, be in the right mindset. So that way, okay, since we're in the right mindset with regards to everything that's happening, maybe we could be able to have the opportunity to like, able to figure out our next steps and what to do next. And I really like your idea of how you talk about, oh, like this giving us an opportunity for a second chance, like an opportunity for growth. I really find that to be definitely important at these times. So I really like your perspectives on that one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Perfect. So now the next question that I'm going to ask is, so once again, I'm going to start with Alberto for this one, but in terms of your film, what does your film convey about our new 2020 reality? Like, I was wondering if you could explain like how you used your film to what the message of your film is in terms of in terms of like the message with regards to our new 2020 reality. And I'll start with you, Alberto.
Well, here in Spain, we are special. All the people are special. My film shows how regular people, like supermarket employees, had to convert into heroes during the pandemic, the confinement. The confinement, and how they stopped being heroes afterwards. At first, they was heroes, and after they had to stop it. And people forgot about them. But supermarket employees actually must continue to work if they are astronauts. Imagine mask, gloves, and all protection that they need to put for fight to COVID.
Thank you so much, Alberto. It was great to hear you on that one. What about you, Marcello? What does your film convey about our new 2020 reality?
Yeah, I guess my film was just kind of trying to, well, I guess, point out, everybody's, affected by COVID and what's going on, but, to differing degrees, right? The main character was my dad, and he's, pretty, relatively lucky. We live in a pretty low, there's not so many cases in our city, and economically he's pretty much fine and isn't in need of he's got housing, but his friend clearly isn't, and so that was kind of it was just going on in my life, and I figured I ought to capture it. But I mean, even in the instance with him, I mean, he George, one of the characters in the film, is also he's on Social Security, so he has money coming in and doesn't necessarily I don't know. Everybody's affected differently, so I'm sure there's so many people that are in much more dire, tough situations than even him. So I guess I just wanted to make a film about how that affected me personally. But yeah, I know that everybody out there is going through something different, and I can only imagine some people are really going through some rough times. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to tell the story of what was going on just with me personally, because I was just stuck in my house. And yeah, I think that everyone's affected, and yeah, it's pretty hard for a lot of folks, I'm sure.
Definitely, it's like a very important issue that we have to deal with right now. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective. Yes, let me move on to Pedro. What does your film convey about our new 2020 reality? You want to explain any messages that you have, or anything that you presented your film in regards to contemporary times?
Yeah, what I wanted to show or to express with this film is because I was outside, not because I wanted to, it's because I have to work. And sometimes I saw a lot of people that they went outside not wearing masks because they wanted to. So it's like, you have to and I said something in the film that is like, you have been given a second time. This time, don't be a fool. So because I saw the trucks outside the hospitals, with bodies. We were having like a death rate of more than 1,000 people dying per day. And some people don't see those stuff. And they have people in the hospitals working there. If you go to a supermarket, you have people working there. They are exposing to all these viruses for COVID. And I was like seeing all this because I was outside working too as an essential worker. I was doing like deliveries and all those stuff from people that could not go outside because they were in a highest risk. And it's good. I just wanted people to know that you cannot be selfish. You have to think in others. And even if you are young and you cannot develop like the whole sickness, but you can transmit it to other people and you can put other people in risk of losing their life. And I just hope that if at least somebody can think about it after watching what I did, well, that's good. That's something good.
Definitely. Really, that is really important. And I really like, like I said, I know I've mentioned this before, but I really like the idea of the second chance, of like, emphasizing the second chance. So I definitely agree that one is a very important point. So I guess what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up the questions to the panelists. If any of you have questions you want to ask each other, or I'll also open up questions to our audiences if you have any questions. If you want to have any questions for each other, just let me I'm just going to make sure for a question that you ask, please state who you're directing the question to, or if you're just asking as like a overall general question. So I guess I could open up to the floor and the panelists for each other. We don't have any questions.
I'll ask a question.
Okay, perfect.
This is one thing that I kind of struggled with in mine, but how did editing something like this go at that time? Because I think, we're trying to stay positive and keep a positive story, but in a lot of ways the world was falling apart. And how did kind of editing and zeroing in on the stories work for you guys?
Well, editing wasn't easy, especially because I didn't have like much time, but what was more important for me was to deliver a message. And it is as you said, the world was falling apart. So after if the world is perfect, what do you need a message from? So in that moment when the world was falling apart is when people needed the message. And that's what kept me focused on delivering.
Yeah, for me personally, editing is such an important part to how a documentary film comes out. So I had hours and hours of footage, so I kind of could working with my teacher and my classmates when I was making the film, depending on the feedback they were giving me, I could kind of choose to give a different perspective or give more footage of one character, one scene, or that all those sort of changes, all those different sort of decisions change how your film is going to come and how it's going to play to audiences. So that was probably the trickiest thing for me, is just trying to figure out this story that's pretty clear in my mind, which way do I want to lean, which way do I want audiences to understand, which perspectives. And that's, I'm sure, something everybody who's making a documentary film goes through, but that was kind of what was tricky for me, and challenging for sure.
In my case, first I showed the interviews, and after I create the script, changing the rules, and after I shoot the imagine that I think it can be perfect for telling the story. It's different, but it's run well.
Perfect. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your perspectives. I really like to know all the perspectives you all had to share. Just want to give you all a round of applause. And with that said, we're actually going to move on to our next discussion panel. It's going to be called Action by Molly Hirsch. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to mute my camera now.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to speak with all of you. The first thing I wanted to start with is how special this segment of our film festival is. For most film festivals around this time, there's a focus on COVID, but we wanted to open this up to not only the essential stories of those heroes out there, but also essential protests, because this year has been a crazy year filled with more than just sickness and pandemic, but with Black Lives Matter and other movements, around the globe in Brazil. And I just wanted to point that out, that this is a very special time to speak about these issues. I have 5 questions for all of you, and I'd like to get through them, but if we don't, it's okay. So I want to open the floor to all of you, whoever wants to go first. Unmute yourself. There we go. The first question I have is just, what personally for you motivated you to make your film?
One of you guys can go first if you want. It's fine.
I was gonna say I can go. I think, so there were 2 things. One is my film obviously delves on the issue of racism, because that's underneath. The systemic racism is the problem and the whole reason why the Black Lives Matter movement came to be. And I think growing up, since I was a kid, I have had those experiences where people were racist towards me. So I've always kind of had some struggles with that. So the issue itself is very personal to me, but then on the other hand, what angered me so much is why we're still having this conversation. And I think it's 2020, it blows my mind that sometimes I feel like we regress as a civilization, or we just never changed, and I think when the George Floyd protests happened, and it wasn't just for George Floyd, I mean, it was protests for all of the people that have either died or have been injured in situations, whether it's police brutality, whether it's a different type of issue. It all leads back to systemic racism. And I wanted to do something. I wanted to try and see if I can just make a difference. And being high risk for me personally, I'm asthmatic. So being part of the protests outside was something I did not feel comfortable doing. And so I wanted to still show that I am part of this protest, and I am 100% in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. So that's how my film came to be.
Thanks, Ashna. I applaud you for making a film during this time, and I feel similarly about, I wanted to do something but not go outside, and I think this is a great opportunity and answer to that. Thank you.
If you want to go ahead, Brenda, you can.
Okay. I just checking if you can hear
It's
me.
okay. Yeah.
Well, it's amazing how our stories kind of connect, right, all over the planet when it concerns this violent subject. Similar to what Ashna said, like the motivation for this, I think was the time I was born, when the time you recognize yourself as a Black person or other minorities, which in case of my country, in Brazil, we call Black people minorities, but we're not really minority, we're majority, but we don't have the privilege, that the white privilege, right? So the discussion, like there are many, many levels of the same conversation. But coming to George Floyd, as amazing as it could be, even being Brazilian, I think George Floyd had its responsibility on this short film of mine called Ile, which means homeland in English, because after George Floyd was killed, right? I don't know if it was Spotify or some American company started making the black squares in social media. Everybody started posting this as if the solution to racism would be solved, after posting a black square or whatever. And then everybody started doing that. And then celebrities here in Brazil, they decided to give their social media to Black people, like in a way of saying, okay, so now you will occupy my Instagram, my whatever channel that is, for a certain amount of time. And then there is a very famous Brazilian actress, a friend of mine called Débora Seco, who works for the biggest TV channel here called Globo TV, which of course, the majority of people working on Globo TV just guess the color of their skin, no need to say that. And then this friend of mine, this white friend of mine, the celebrity gave me her profile to occupy like for 2 days. And then I didn't feel comfortable showing, like only my poems, only my work, because then what's the point? It's not about me. That's the thing when it comes to racism. It's not individual. It's not you or her. It's like a global thing. And then me and her, my friend Débora Seco, we thought it would be a good idea to give voice, because I had the channel, to give voice to Black people I know, my brothers, my cousins, my friends, Black people, to use that channel to talk to 20 million followers that this girl has, right, online. And then that's how the idea came, because of George Floyd and the occupation on social media. Then I asked people to send me their, like to record a video on their mobile phones. The film is vertical because of this, because people, they just can't record it horizontally, so it's vertically. And then that's how the film came. It came from my Black family, friends sharing their terrible experience concerning racism when they were kids.
Thank you, Brenda. That's a great background for that. And next, Kyle, please.
First of all, I just want to say that your two films are fantastic. And just the point that like we're talking about the same subject, but you two, I like we've mentioned, I've had that privilege of being a white male, that I haven't had to live through this every day of my life. And the fact that your voices shine through and it's able to have so much more empathy than my work, where I'm just kind of observing what's happening and trying to learn and do my best with it. It's really powerful, and I just applaud you guys for that. The reason I made this film, it kind of goes back to the Black Square as well, because I see all of my friends and just everyone on social media post this, and then they just move on, and that's it. They think that that's the solution to it. And raising awareness and saying that you support the movement is a lot different than raising awareness when you're trying to change people's minds and have a discussion. And where I come from in Indiana, it's like I mentioned before, it's a very red state, and there's people that don't even, it's crazy, but there's people that don't even acknowledge that systematic racism is a thing. So I have to try to convince them. Like my film is, I try to make it like as simple as possible and try to gear it towards those people who just don't even understand the point of the movement, which sadly they're out there. So I used Martin Luther King in the beginning because, one, white people usually point to Martin Luther King and are like, hey, he solved racism, it's all over. And they always have clips of like his I Had a Dream speech in 1963, and it's always triumphant and all this. But I found this old clip that was in color, actually, from 1967, which is 11 months before he gets assassinated. And he's talking about ideas that haven't even happened yet. They're still working for this change. And I made a point to say that he got killed for these ideas. And it goes through what you were saying, Ashna, just about how history is regressing. And he's talking about these ideas, and you're listening and like, this is happening now. And it's still, there still needs to be a solution to this. And that's why I chose to shoot it on Super 8mm, because the interview with Martin Luther King was also on film, and I wanted to try to like connect history to present and show that history is not over, racism is not over, this story is still living through us.
Thanks, Kyle. That's a really great point. I had a similar experience with just a lot of, just right in that moment back in June, a lot of posts and then nothing. And I think film is one of the most powerful mediums in doing this and trying to spread and convince people. That's why I'm in documentary as well, just trying to convince people that things do exist. Okay, and now let's move to the next question. So how do you personally cope with these issues, like whether you personally are seeing it around you? And anybody can go first.
Well, can I speak? Well, I think I don't cope well. I'm 42 years old, and up to nowadays, it's not something comfortable, you know, because it's not only the speech and the activism and that's it. It's something, well, I don't know if all of you watched my short film, but my brothers, I asked my brothers to record like their personal experience concerning racism in childhood. And you know, my brothers, they are like what, 50 years old. And up to nowadays, when they relate to something that happened when they were my son's age, my son is 6, right? It's something that is hard for you not to cry, for you not to be touched, for you not to be hurt and angry and upset and get violent, you know, when you hear this experience. And once again, I say, when we are grown up, we deal with it, right? We handle it, right? We go to a therapist and I don't know, we curse and we fight and we punch someone's nose when they're racist to you. But when you are 6, it really makes me want to cry right now when I think about this. So I don't cope well.
I understand that. Thanks for making this throughout all those feelings. It's really important and brave of you.
Yeah, I'll second what Brenda said. I think it's not something you really cope with. It's just something you kind of bury. And I think, and I actually, like, I cried, like when the George Floyd incident happened, and I was watching the video that someone had taken of what he endured in his last moments, and I was just like, it was like, just tears were just coming out of me. And it was also from all of my own trauma that I've had when I was a kid. And so it was, I don't think you ever really like cope and move on. I think it's a matter of what you make of your life with it. And I think you can choose to, you know, you can choose to be negative and have hatred in your heart, or you can choose the other way, which is, you know, you surround yourself with people with love, and you also try and focus on how can I change someone's mind, and how can I be the best person of who I am, and people will, you know, they'll meet me and they might subconsciously change their mind that, oh wow, maybe she's not like all these negative things that I had about somebody dark skinned, you know, maybe that's wrong, you know. And it's just like, so I think that's how I would say it. I don't know if coping, I agree with Brenda, like it's still very emotional, and I have moments sometimes where I still think about like, but I think my new challenge is one, trying to make the best out of it, like use whatever trauma that I had in my own life and see what other people are going through and try and figure out how can we make this better. And that was, you know, again, like the reason for the film and why I felt like I healed a little bit in a weird way when I made it. I don't know how to describe that, but it was an unexpected feeling.
Wow, that's beautiful. I'm really glad that you're able to use that for your benefit. And it's a thing I can't even imagine every day, just helping to change people's minds. But I hope you continue to make more art and cope with what you can. Okay, Kyle, thank you.
So like I said in the last question, I just have a different experience than you guys, but I'm a very empathetic person. And when I see all these things happening, I just get very angry that we live in a world where that can happen. And when I see people not feel that same way and see that there's literally no excuse for them to feel the way they feel, it just makes me just very frustrated and angry, because I just want to, I don't know why they think that like that. And filmmaking, I think as filmmakers, all of us are empathetic people, because filmmaking is an exercise in empathy. And that's why I think it is the best art form to try to convince someone, especially documentaries. And so I just tried to capture what I was seeing, so at least people would understand that we're living through this historic moment and you should be on the right side of history. And hopefully it changed perspectives. But in terms of how it impacted me, it was like, I did need to get this out of me. And mainly because I'm not a very confrontational person unless it's through art, but I wanted to be confrontational to all these people that I saw that were saying crazy things. So hopefully it got across to them at least a little bit. So yeah.
Thanks, Kyle. Okay, my next question is more for just us as filmmakers. Do you have any advice on how to get your audience to like really feel the way you do about an issue? As you know, that's one of my biggest problems, is really like getting your feelings into your work and having the most effect. Do you have any advice on that for us?
Kyle, or you're
Yeah, I can go. Yeah.
Yeah, go.
So I've been making movies since I was probably like eight years old. Like I don't know a life without it. I love it. But so I've done fictional work a lot, but more recently I've been getting into documentary. And with documentary, I think it is a lot easier to capture how you feel and how you think the audience will feel, because you can step back and become the audience when you're making a documentary. You're not making these people's stories. You're not trying to piece these storylines and characters together to hopefully create an emotion. You're presented with something and you have an emotional response to it. And when you have that emotional response, you know that it's something good and you should capture it. And hopefully that pushes your argument in the way that at least your feelings about it will shine through it. That's just why I think documentary is just so powerful, that it allows you to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Either of you have a...
Well, you kind of resumed what I was gonna say. And mainly what I think is that when you're addressing to something with your heart, right? When you're addressing to something that you care so much about, which is something so precious to you, like the truth, you know, like from your inner soul, I think somehow it touches the person who's watching heart in some reason. Of course, if you put, I don't know, Donald Trump to watch our movies, he would think, oh, that's bullshit. It's not true. Like they're talking. There is a limit of people, I think, the audience who they just don't get it, right? But then again, we're not talking to these people, right? Because of course there are lots of, I don't know, if someone makes a movie about guns and how guns are important, that's not for me. I'm not going to watch it. Nobody's going to convince me. So I think in a way, yes, we're living in a bubble, kind of, and then people in this circle, we tend to agree with what we show. And when we show it with your heart, with your soul, it's easier for you to touch people's heart somehow.
Yeah, I second that. I think that that was really well said. Like when you have a mission and a purpose and it comes intrinsically like from you because of the heart you put into it, I think it comes in your work. And I think the best films or the best artwork, regardless of medium, is when it comes from that person, because you can always feel it, you know, whether even if it's in a painting, you can, if you really look, you can see who put their heart and soul into it. So I think putting an extension of yourself in everything you do is like when the film's truth comes out. And I think in my case, because it was a narrative, it was essentially what I wanted to say. And I just put it in a context where I felt like people might understand it better, instead of me just talking to the camera and saying everything as like a long letter, essentially. I decided that, and I took a risk. And one of the risks I took was, it's a very simple conversation, but it's also a very uncomfortable conversation. And it's the kind of uncomfortable conversation that people have behind closed doors, especially people of color that may not be Black. Because I think what it is it's very easy to say, oh, the Black Lives Matter movement, that's just about Black people and white people, and like, that's their problem, right? And it's like, no, that's the wrong attitude to have, because by saying that, you yourself are showing that you're racist. And you're, and it's not just white people that are racist. There are people that are racist in every ethnicity, and skin color. And I think trying to have that uncomfortable conversation about why all lives matter, like what the difference is, that's really what I was trying to grasp at, because people are like, well, all lives matter. And you hear that all the time. And you're like, but you're not getting it. Because if all lives mattered, then there would not be a Black Lives Matter movement, right? And so that's the irony, and that's the sad truth. And so I would say, like, if you're trying to make a film, whatever it is, whether it's documentary or narrative, I would say figure out what your core idea is, like what your central point is, and then build around that, because that's what I did. For me, it was the difference between all lives matter and Black Lives Matter.
I'd really like to build on something that Brenda said about just living in a bubble. And I think that is true to an extent, but also in terms of making sure your point is across, you want to know what your audience is. So I was trying to make this film geared towards people who just didn't agree with this movement or didn't understand it, or were saying all lives matter. So that's why I opened with Martin Luther King. And because in their head, he's the one that like solved racism, you know what I mean? And when they start hearing these issues that he's talking about, I'm like, wait a second, he never talked about this, but he did. It hopefully starts to change at least their perspective a little bit, and open them up for when I'm actually capturing the stuff at the protest and the stuff that impacted me. Hopefully they've at least opened a little bit that it can maybe get into them. So yeah, it's definitely understanding your idea and the message you want to get across, but also understanding your audience, I think.
Yeah, I also agree with that, Kyle. I think that's a great point. Like your audience, because as Brenda said, like, you can't appeal to everybody. So you have to figure out who you're trying to motivate or inspire change from. And like everyone's was different. Like in my case, it was other people of color who think that this is a Black and white issue only. And so that's why I targeted that specifically.
For sure, yeah.
Thank you all. That's really great advice for all of us as filmmakers listening now. My next question is similar. It's more about just like, now that you've finished this project, how do you decide with all these things going on, like what to do next, and how to tackle new subjects once you're done with the one you're on? And how do you figure out what's worth filming in this like crazy world right now?
I can go.
Go ahead. Yeah, good.
I saw people thinking, so I thought maybe. I would say, in my case, personally, I don't think my work has stopped on this cause. I think there's more that I can do, and to continue the dialogue and make sure that people don't forget about the Black Lives Matter movement, or the types of things that need to change in the United States. So, but I think it all comes down to like, when you're reading it could be something, people get inspired in so many different ways. In some cases, like for me, I could be reading the news or an op-ed piece, and something puts something in there, and it just really like gets me. It hits me emotionally somehow. And then I realize, you know what? I'm gonna counter that, or I'm going to agree with that, or whatever it is. And that's kind of how I think I've realized that, because I'm very, things touch me. I'm very empathetic. So like whether it's news, whether it's walking outside and I see an interaction and it changes me in some way, those are the kinds of things that I think I realize that I want to tackle, things that I can relate to in some capacity.
For me, it's I don't know how much more I could add to this from my perspective. I think I've done what I can with it. Just because luckily I don't have to live with it every single day. I see it in the news every day, and I like want to keep speaking about it and having conversations. But in terms of my art, I don't know how much more I could add. So in terms of choosing like a next thing to talk about, and ultimately why I talked about this in my film, was that there's just always something that's on my mind in terms of an issue, or whether that's healthcare or climate change, or one of these things that people just don't understand and need a little push in the right direction, possibly, is usually like what I go after next. I'm not exactly sure what it will be. It'll probably be something like fiction with like themes written into it. Before this film, I actually did a Western that just got on Amazon Prime. And has like healthcare like themes in it, even though it's like the 1800s. It has like that and like capitalism, and it's talking about that. So I kind of jump from like genre to genre, and just see like how each topic inspires me in a certain way. So we'll see what's next, but I'm definitely always like waiting to be inspired.
Well, as for me, as an actress, I'm kind of used to not having a plan, right, and waiting to see what's coming next. But and like Ashna, I don't think I've done with that subject, because what else is there to talk about, right? As a Black woman, I want to talk about other stuff and trips to Europe and everything, but the subject keeps coming, keeps haunting us. So very hard for you to, let me pretend I'm not watching what's happening, because especially here in Brazil, it's a very violent place to Black people, right? The genocide of Black youth is extreme. So we see this all the time. It's hard not to talk about. So probably my next documentary, probably it's gonna be on something about that, because it happened some time ago here that a white lady hired a Black maid. The Black maid had to bring her own son, 5-year-old son, to work. And then the white lady didn't take care of the Black maid's son and told the maid to go and walk her dog. The guy started crying because he wanted his mom. And then the white lady put the guy, the 5-year-old guy, in the elevator, pressed any button. The guy went upstairs to 9th floor. There was a hole for the air conditioner. The little guy, 5 years old, fell down and died. It happened in Brazil like 4 months ago. And I'm telling you, it's very violent stories we are exposed to. Like Ashna, when I hear this, I cry, I get revolted, and so this is something, how can I not talk about this? So this is probably gonna be my next documentary, if the woman of this little angel accepts to talk to me.
Okay, thank you all for those answers. That makes perfect sense to me, that this is just part of your lives. And I can't even imagine, like, as a filmmaker, it's just, I don't have to deal with those kinds of things. And I applaud you for for using your art to express all those things and to try to get more people aware of these issues, around the world. That's all you can do right now. All right, we're running out of time here, but I just wanted to know if any of you have questions for each other, or anybody in the audience would like to say something. You can raise your hand if you want, and I can unmute you, or you can talk in the Q&A. So we'll just wait. Or, yeah, if you have any last comments. All right. Well, then we're going to move on to the next Q&A, which will be with Kimya Akbari. And I'm so glad to have this conversation with all of you. I'm very excited to see your work. What was the name of the Western you worked on, Kyle?
It's called One Last Time. If you look that up on Amazon Prime or just my name, it'll be on there. It's like 15 minutes, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations, Kyle.
Thank you, appreciate it, and thanks for having this discussion. It was really eye-opening.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you for doing this and organizing it in such a way. I really appreciate being invited and being among so many amazing people who did something great during this pretty sad, dark time.
Yeah, I'm also very touched to be here with these people. We have, even being far away, we have so much in common. So thank you for this, because the voice, we do have the voice, but we need the space. So you're giving us this. Thanks for that.
I'm so glad to have that opportunity too. Okay, I'm moving forward. Goodbye.
Cool. Hello. Can y'all hear me well? Like, can you hear me, Kyle? Okay, perfect. So yeah, there's Daniel also. Great. Welcome back. So this will be our final Q&A with the filmmakers before we move on to the awards. So yeah, let's get to it. I kind of wanted to start with talking about kind of like my takeaway from your films, and then have you comment on that a little bit. I think both of your films do such a great job of kind of tapping into these like intimate experiences and like the senses and engaging the senses. So whether it's with food, whether it's like little family gatherings or relationships with our pets, I really like felt my senses engaged and kind of reflected on, wow, like, you know, that human interaction, that touch, like those engagements are something that we're lacking, and it really takes a toll on you and you don't realize it until you kind of hone in on it. And yeah, so one example I'll give before I kind of give the floor to you all was in the beginning of kind of like the lockdown in California in March, was the Persian New Year. And I'm Iranian, I celebrate that, and I was alone. And usually that's something that, you know, like you're with your family, and I was completely alone, but then making like the food, like being on the phone with my mom and making the food, like Persian food, that really just changed everything for me. And so that was something that I kind of related to, Daniel, in terms of your film. But enough about me. So my question to you all is, what kind of inspired you to tap into these more intimate experiences and kind of focusing on engaging the senses and these like little moments that we're giving under quarantine? If you could talk more about that.
Well, the short film came out of two basic needs that I had at the moment. The first one was I was feeling lonely, and normally I'm out of all day, but since the pandemic, I stayed at home. I cook more, and one day while I was cooking, I started to have these flashbacks to my childhood, and I was really excited about that. And I talked to the phone. I talked to my parents, and they couldn't get it the same way I did at the moment, because sometimes words are not enough. So I was feeling kind of frustrated of feeling this contact through food and not being able to share it with my family. So then my partner and I, we are both documentary filmmakers. So we've been watching documentary films all the pandemic. And one of the authors that we explored was Agnes Barda and her personal approach to documentary. So, and after I saw Las Playas, the beaches, I was like, I really want to make something with myself and with the people I love. And that's where all this need of, I just needed to connect with my family. That's why I try to do this.
I kind of coming from a similar angle with the needing connection. And so like I said, I'm still in school. And so when COVID hit, we were in classes, and the way my school went about it was we got an email at 5 p.m. saying, as of that day, campus is closed. And so I was living in a 4-bedroom house with 3 other students, and within 48 hours, all 3 of them got up and went home. So I was alone in a 4-bedroom house watching everything happen, and all I really had was my dog. And she is a rescue, and when everyone learns that your dog is a rescue, they say you saved them. And I'm a big believer that people rescue dogs because they need saving as well, and it is a two-way street. And I realized, and I just found myself looking at her more than usual and all the time, and it was time to really explore that, because it was all I had in the moment other than the news. And at that time, the news was just, out of this world. And hopefully we're never in a situation where the news is like that ever again. But it was definitely seeking connection, and the rescue aspect kept coming back to me, and I felt obligated to really express the role my dog has helped me, and she really helped me at that point in time.
Thank you both for sharing.
I just wanted to add 2 things. First, I really liked watching your movie, because just the day I watched it, I was thinking about making a movie about my cat. So when I saw it, it's like, oh yes, I'm gonna make a movie about my cat now. And second of all, what I really like about most of the documentaries I do, I make them from a personal perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I've made a lot of documentaries also on love and relationships. And what I really like about talking about personal stories is that it affects in a very direct way to the people involved in them. So when I made this movie and all my family and all my uncles and aunts saw them, it was like a big family event, everybody was sharing what they ate, everybody was, and that small action that changed the energy of a very weird WhatsApp ecosystem, family ecosystem, it felt pretty good. It made me feel close because they responded in a personal way to it.
Well, and that's what's so great about your film is, food is universal. Everywhere is food, and yet it's also so personal. And when a documentary can be so dialed in, it almost becomes more meta. And I think your film does that. And the pandemic is everywhere. And so it's similar in the sense that we're all interacting with the pandemic, but we all have our own personal interactions with the pandemic. And I think your film does a great job of drawing a parallel to that in a positive way with food and comfort.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. I think I really love both of your films because it's just like it captures really well how everyone is feeling the need for more connection and how we're kind of like yearning for that connection because we've been like blocked away from it, and it only keeps getting exacerbated. It doesn't keep getting better. Zoom doesn't help that much, but definitely finding alternative ways to forge that connection is really important. And kind of going off of that, I guess I was wondering what you all were hoping that your audience would kind of take away from this. Like, what would be the main takeaway, or maybe like message, or like hope even from like your own experiences or from the premise of the film?
Well, when I started showing this short film to my acquaintances, it was a beautiful experience in the pandemic because they all everybody has their family dish. So suddenly I was being told a lot of stories about many family dishes of many people that we've never talked about that before. And for me, that was it, like making them feel reconnected to something about themselves. And I was really pleased to see this response on the public. It led to many interesting and delicious conversations.
Definitely. For me, I think I really wanted people to. I wanted to push people to take a moment and breathe and take a step back and look at their life and see what's in it, because I think everyone does have support systems and everyone does have things in their life that are there for them, and it still is hard to remember those things right now, and especially at the height of the pandemic. Well, I guess we're coming back into a bigger height, but at the beginning, it was really just to encourage and hopefully push people to watch the film and then turn their phone on or turn to the person next to them and say, I love you and you matter to me, and I'm grateful for your presence in my life. One thing we talk about at Chapman is in the doc program is really thinking about who the viewer is and who they are, and not just the kind of person, but are they older, are they younger, what class are they from? And this film, I don't really have that, which was challenging, but also I think fun and made it good for the pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely. So I guess, kind of like giving the moment that we're in with its own limitations for both artists or non-artists, I guess what you kind of see like the role of artists, or maybe even specifically if you want to talk about from your own experience, filmmakers in this time, like this kind of unprecedented time, that is really kind of a bit of like a social upheaval. But yeah, kind of like in these like dire circumstances, where do you see your own like role or responsibility, and then filmmakers more broadly? Either of you could start. Yeah.
Oh, I feel that like we're in an empathy crisis around the world. I think that the more I read about what's going on in different places of the world, I'm more convinced that the main problem is a profound lack of empathy for any other person. And I just feel like I feel that my job is to be an empathy supplier. I feel like films help us connect with people that we think we don't have anything to do with them. And I think that when we make a film, we open a channel between two different realities, the thing we are shooting and the people that are watching the film. And we need to make sure that that channel we're opening, it's one that's filled with love and empathy towards the other.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. And I think it's a time for filmmakers to step up. I think so many people, especially in doc, but in general, so many people want to get into film because of the impact it can have on people. And it's easy to get caught up in the showbiz side of it and the flashiness of it. But I think we're at a moment where filmmakers can be the influencers that they want to be and that they fell in love with. And with documentary film, it's a genre that has been built on giving a voice to the voiceless, to exposing injustices, and it's been run by white men and white straight men. And I think we're also at a time where you can kind of decolonize and democratize documentary. And that can come through collaboration, and it can come through a lot of different ways. But I think we're at a turning point where that reset button is really easy to press. And now more than ever, I think people are looking for voices of color, from voices of LGBTQ communities, and really valuing that. But more and more people are shopping local now than they ever did. More and more people are moving away from big box stores, and feeding into that, I think there's an opportunity for all of us to band together and really kind of set a new direction forward on how we work together and make art.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely, I think you're both completely right that film is really powerful and kind of like evoking those emotions, or like being eye-opening and making that like visceral and emotional impact that maybe like other mediums wouldn't do as well or as like impactfully. And so I guess with that, what would kind of be your advice to fellow filmmakers, or maybe let's say like people who are just, you know, who are younger and just like entering like you know, the film industry, or interested in making documentary, and they're beginning like now, what would kind of be your advice to work with what they're given?
Well,
for me, oh, go ahead.
you
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
For me,
Yes.
the biggest thing, you know, and I still struggle with this, but you just gotta, you gotta shoot. You gotta put yourself in uncomfortable positions. All of the people that have changed the world were doing it in a position when they were uncomfortable or going farther than they thought they could. And it's easy to say that when you're looking at, you know, political icons and social icons, but it applies to everyone. You know, if we push ourselves just a step further, and that can be simply pressing record in the beginning, or it can be learning VFX. It can be a lot of different things within filmmaking. But I think the biggest thing is pushing yourself to do something you haven't done before. And if you do it truthfully and honestly, and especially with Doc, if you look your participants in the eye and you tell them what you want to do and what you're seeking to do, whether or not you actually nail that at the end becomes less important. And it's the journey of getting there. And I actually just finished filming my thesis for my school, and I was reflecting on it. And I think that it's crazy that, you know, I spent so much time filming someone else, but in the end, I really learned about myself the most. And when you can, you know, reflect on that and figure out what parts of yourself should be in the story and what parts of yourself should not be in the story, you'll learn about yourself while telling another story. And I think that's what I love about documentary, and what other people can, I wish I had learned that earlier on, was to really embrace the self-reflection within documentary.
Well, I'm well. While you were asking this question, I was thinking also again about Agnes Barda, and in this movie, The Beaches, she talks about how finally she could have a camera this size on her hands, and she was the happiest person in the world because she didn't need a crew. She could just go and shoot whatever she wanted, and everybody at that moment were like, oh, that's not film, it's not ever gonna. And she saw it in another way, and that really meant a lot to me because I come from a very big film school in Mexico. That has a lot of gear, and they teach you to film with these industrial standards. And the more things are happening right now, the less sense makes to me to film that way, because that all that big machinery just put space between you and what you want to film, more in documentary. And I feel that you don't even need a video camera right now to make films. I mean, half of my film, I shoot it doing it with GIFs. And right now films, I think social media, YouTube, I am a YouTube addict, I must admit, and I'm really inspired by how YouTube creators are doing things that many filmmakers haven't yet even think about it. And doing YouTube videos, and I really try to learn from them. I really try to learn from how do we speak through social media. When I was making the circle thing and the background, I was being inspired by the Facebook profile page everybody has at their. So I think that right now, it's like there are endless possibilities and no excuses to do a film. And I don't know, I guess I would say that.
I mean, my film was entirely cell phone shot, and I edited on the free version of DaVinci Resolve, you know, so
That's it.
I didn't, you know, there's no technological holdbacks in documentary now. I mean, and like you look at the new iPhone 12s, I mean, they can shoot what, ProRes RAW? That's insane. I mean, it's awesome, but it's insane. So I wholeheartedly agree with everything Daniel said.
Yeah, Daniel, and I think what you were just saying kind of relates to what you were saying, Kyle, in terms of like democratizing like film. Like I feel like if we kind of move away from like the elitist perspective, you know, the need for all this like fancy equipment, or that only certain people are qualified to tell stories, then we can gather so many more stories, and we can kind of give access to so many more voices that we wouldn't have heard if there wasn't such access to technology or tools for documenting stories, and if we were to just focus on those. I think we're just about the end of the time, so we're gonna soon move into the awards. So if anybody has questions for our panelists here, I don't see any so far, but please feel free to put it in the chat or be unmuted. If not, we can move on. But yeah, thank you so much, both Kyle and Daniel. Thank you for your really great answers and for your films and creativity.
Thanks for giving us a space. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. This has been really amazing. I unfortunately need to dip out. I have class. So thank you again for this. All of the films have been so cool to watch, and talking to all of you guys has been enlightening and invigorating in a lot of ways. So thank you for that. Have a good one, y'all.
See you. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting y'all.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for being a part and sharing everything. Let's have everybody who's here, our panelists, come back on. You can unmute yourself and turn on your video. And thank you so much for a fascinating discussion on a lot of different ways, and to our moderators. I'm going to wait till we get everybody popped back up on the screen, and I will hand it over shortly to Eric Kramer, who will do a little awards announcement for us. And we really are here to celebrate everybody, but I wanted to commemorate something that we began last year as part of the Pluralities conference, and that was a new award that we called the Accomplice Award. And the idea behind the Accomplice Award is that there is some level of risk that you're kind of in on the risk that your film is taking. Whether, you know, that be from a filmmaking perspective or even from a scholarly perspective in terms of, you know, bringing new critical ideas to the world and doing something that is in cahoots, perhaps, in some way. So that's the sort of spirit behind the award, and we inaugurated it last year with honoring the esteemed Iranian scholar Hamid Nafisi, as well as the filmmaker Alex Rivera, whose film Infiltrators is a very risky project. If any of you haven't seen it, you should take a look at how he's blending narrative and documentary and dealing with the inside and the outside of things. He collaborated with a group of activists who actually got themselves detained so that they could see what was going on inside detention centers. We gave one of the activists from that organization the third award last year. So just to give you a sense of the frame from which that comes. So we're going to honor those that were nominated. There were 3 categories that we felt really emerged in terms of the films that were submitted. One is creativity and innovation, one is ethnography, and one is empathy. And I heard that as a topic that came up today in terms of somebody being an empathy supplier. I think I heard that along with a lot of great things. And I just wanted to also just comment on something Brenda said. I believe it was Brenda, about not being okay. And this being that not being okay is a part of being okay right now. And because that really resonated with me when I heard that, and I appreciated the honesty behind that and how the work is driving your not being okay. The other thing I was reflecting on, and maybe we could talk about this after the awards if anybody wants to stick around, but just something to think about is whether these digital experiences, like the democratization, as we were talking about, of these technologies that make us more capable of storytelling, are also sort of rendering us in this quarantine world as like other than ourselves, as sort of images of ourselves and representations of ourselves. And I wonder about the empathy factor when it comes to that kind of virtual existence that we have. So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. It looks like everyone's pretty much joined us at this point, so I am going to hand it over to Eric. You guys can unmute yourself. Let's unmute ourselves so we can celebrate everybody here. And I even have a little.
That's great.
So Eric, please take it away.
Well, hi guys, and thank. First off, I want to say something that Soumya even touched. Before we even start the awards, I want to say we really did go through every single video, and it was really seeing these awards. Some of these stories really moved me, and some of these stories have really changed the perspectives from which everyone in DocFilm sees the world. You guys are doing a really great job, and no matter what, you all should be really proud of yourselves because these works are really original. So for our first award, we're going to do the Creativity and Innovation Award. This award really pushed the envelope and showed us new stories in ways that we had not necessarily seen before. We were really pushed to find a good film for the award. And the film that has won the Creativity and Innovation Award is the 14th Exquisite Angels by Ana Luisa and Katrina Branco. I do not think Anna or Katrina are here today to accept their awards, but we congratulate you, and we will move on to our next award, which is the Ethnographic Award. We were really impressed, as mentioned earlier by some of our panelists, we were surprised by how many international filmmakers we got. And, telling stories is not a local thing. This is a global effort in just understanding COVID-19. And so we really wanted to make a subsection in order to congratulate giving us views from other ends of perspectives. And for our Ethnographic Award, the winner is About Gaining Weight by Daniel Ujuri. Daniel, would you like to say anything?
Well, this is a surprise. Well, thank you for showcasing my film, and thanks for the opportunity to listen to all these new companions in the filmmaking. And well, just I love talking about food, and I would love to one day hear your food stories also, all of you. And I'm so nervous that I don't know what I'm saying right now, so I think I'll just stop and say thank you again.
No problem. We've all been there. Thank you, Daniel. I really hope you enjoyed the award. Our next award is actually going to be, ironically, for empathy, kind of the theme of the night. This next person is exactly what Soumya was talking about, an empathy supplier. I think that there is a serious empathy epidemic going on and a serious lack of it. And so it's really important to you as filmmakers to use the tools that we have for empathy to create new perspectives for people to feel compassion for those who they might not have. And the winner of our Empathy Award is Homeland by Miguel.
Oh, this is the actor of my film. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, this is cool.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We're very glad. This is the best actor in the world, right? I'm very thrilled about that. Thank you very much.
No problem. And then we also have some honorable mentions.
Well, I'm very, very.
I'm sorry, I think you cut out.
Yeah, I got cut out, but I just want to say thank you for that.
Anytime. And then we have some quick honorable mentions we have. For creativity, our honorable mention is going to be Creativity Stays Home. For the ethnographic honorable mention, we have Cuando Todos Pueden. And for the honorable mention for empathy, we have If Not Now, Then When.
Thank you.
Once again, everyone, your films were wonderful, and it was a really tough decision, and you all should pat yourself on the back because this was a really, really great festival. I really enjoyed it.
Let's celebrate a little bit. Woohoo, everybody. Congratulations. This is my homemade award. You will be getting something more formal and lovely later. But we really thank you so much for being a part of this experience. And we've learned so much from you all. And we honor you all. With that, I'd love to just sort of have a kind of a free post-show discussion. Thank you to our audience who came and shared your time with us today from the various places that you're from. And I really hope that we can all continue to keep talking about these topics and expand upon them as we move forward. So thank you so much to our judges, Anais, Miguel, and Noah. Thank you to Kimia and Daniel and Molly. Molly, thank you so much for making the show. I've had it on YouTube alongside of Zoom, and it's gone swimmingly. Thank you so much, Eric, for being a part of our team and delivering the awards. And just thank you to all the filmmakers. I feel like I know you all so much better now, even though I felt a sense of knowing you from your films. And I hope that we can convene again as artists and keep this conversation going. You've inspired me in a lot of ways. So we are just going to leave the webinar on, and we'll tag on sort of an ending at the end. But our attendees, you're certainly welcome to log off. We might have some folks that will join us to have a post-show discussion, and we can all just take a breath and maybe just, does anyone have anything they'd like to say? Nothing formal.
I guess I gotta say cheers to everyone. I don't have a glass, but I'll use my water bottle. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. All right. Brenda has a drink. Excellent. All right.
My empty coffee over here.
And if you have to go and you're done, you can just sort of log out as you need to. We'll be in touch with everyone, again, with some follow-up from this event. And we really appreciate your participation. I really enjoyed the generosity of your conversations this morning. It's morning for me, at least. But people were super candid and frank and spoke from the heart. And I think that made this a really worthwhile convening and gathering. And I just don't know how we would have gotten this group of people together otherwise. So I celebrate our coming together whatever it was that drew us there.
I just want to say something that, you know, as lonely and isolating this time has been for people all over the world, in a weird way, it's also brought people together that would never have ordinarily met. And because we would have gone on with our regular lives with, you know, within our own social circles. And I just think that there's something really beautiful that's happened, that's emerged in this time. And I think this festival that you did is an example of that, where people from all over the world are able to not only watch, but also participate. And so, yeah, I just want to say, like, I just want to end that and my participation on that note, that I'm very grateful. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashna. That's a great last comment. I agree, exactly. It's sort of serendipitous and strange, but also a very warm place to be, to get exposed to things that you just normally wouldn't be. And yes, and I think somebody talked about it today, to like be uncomfortable. And I don't remember who said that, but to be in that space of discomfort. And I think we're all kind of forced into it right now, whether you want to be or not. So I just really appreciate all the people who saw that as opportunity as well. And I think that was, it pushed creativity really to its limits and dug deep in terms of, you know, sometimes I talk with my students and I say, you know, I don't want to be morbid, but life is only so long, even if you have like a long life, right? It's only so long. And when you think about how long it takes to make a film, there's only so many films you can make. Just, I know it's hard to imagine. So when you think about that, what's the one you need to make first, right? What's the one that needs to get done? And I think this festival really represents that in a lot of ways, of like, that's the film that needed to get done right now. And it helps us, I think, filter what we choose to work on and what we don't, and maybe as we move forward too. So that's all I've got, friends. I really appreciate it. We'll be in touch with all of you. Au revoir.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Nice meeting you all.
It was very nice meeting you all.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for sharing your work. It was really nice to meet you.
Thanks a lot, and I'm very glad that we had a very high level of debate and intelligent subjects and very interesting art. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Brenda. You guys made my day.